Without objection.
Go ahead. Mr. President, I'd like to start by thanking Leader Thune for President Trump's cabinet nominees so far. President Trump is on the verge of having his full team. We've confirmed Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem, Scott Bessent, and many others who are doing an outstanding job implementing President Trump's America First agenda. But there are more critical nominees that President Trump still needs to confirm. This includes Robert Kennedy, Kash Patel, and Tulsi Gabbard, along with a few others. I've gotten the chance to meet with each of these nominees, been very impressed. They are all outstanding choices and should be confirmed to President Trump's cabinet as soon as possible. First, I'd like to express my complete and total support for Robert F. Kennedy's nomination to be the next Secretary of Health and Human Services. You know, last November, we saw millions of Americans, especially young Americans, flock to the MAGA movement after Bobby Kennedy endorsed President Trump. Both my sons, 28 and 30, Tucker and Troy, were huge fans of RFK, and I know there are just millions of young people who RFK have brought to the table and into the fold, opening our eyes towards something they had never really been involved in, and that's the health of their generation and all generations across the country. As we know, Bobby started the Make America Healthy Again movement, which eventually joined forces with President Trump. MAHA is just a political slogan. It's not just a political slogan, it's a movement that has swept our nation. For the first time, important issues like the effectiveness of vaccines, the dangers of prescription medicines, and the chemicals in our food and household products are part of our national political disclosure, as it should be. And it's all because of the work of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You know, before entering the arena, Bobby spent 4 decades in environmental law and in healthcare policy, specializing in issues like water pollution, vaccines, and food safety. 4 decades. He is an accomplished attorney who attended Harvard, the London School of Economics, and the University of Virginia. And he's authored multiple best-selling books that I would suggest anybody that's concerned about health of our country should read. Throughout his career, he is committed to discovering the truth about what is causing the chronic disease epidemic in America today. And his presidential campaign exposed the fact that we have a very serious public health crisis facing our country today and in the future. For example, in his hearing yesterday, Bobby Kennedy laid out that over 70% of adults and 1/3 of our children are overweight or obese. The rate of diabetes is 10 times more prevalent today than it was in 1960. Cancer among our young people is rising by 1 or 2% every year. Autoimmune diseases, neurodevelopmental disorders, and addiction cases are hugely on the rise. Depression and anxiety rates are absolutely through the roof. Meanwhile, more Americans are reliant on pharmaceutical drugs than ever before. I saw that in my former life of being a coach of players years ago. Very few on any kind of drug, such as Adderall or Ritalin for attention deficit. But the last few years, it was a huge uptick in prescription drugs in many, many young people across the country. These findings are alarming, and they should, and they had better shock all of us. Thank God Bobby has dedicated his life to getting to the bottom of what's causing these trends. As he did in his hearing yesterday, Bobby is an expert on the health issues facing our country and has the facts, the data, and the evidence to prove it. And he will bring his commitment to evidence-based science transparency to our national health agencies. And it's simple. Americans want access to all the facts so they can decide what's best for themselves and for their families. Bobby is committed to giving Americans the information that they need to be informed and make informed decisions. Recently, I've seen the mainstream media and some politicians attempt to smear Bobby Kennedy as anti-vax, anti-industry, or an enemy of food producers. All of this couldn't be further from the truth. It's just a political attack. We've even heard from prominent Republicans like former Vice President Mike Pence, who is running ads on TV criticizing Bobby Kennedy for not being sufficiently pro-life. Bobby addressed this himself yesterday. He believes every abortion is a tragedy, and he will work with President Trump to implement his pro-life policies. These attacks are nothing more than dishonest attempts by the D.C. establishment to tank his nomination. We've seen that in the last couple of weeks on all nominees. Sure, Bobby Kennedy may not be the typical pick for the job, but the American people don't want a typical pick. The one we picked 4 years ago for President Biden was a lawyer, lived in California, and very seldom came to Washington, D.C., worked from home. We got nothing done in health and human services. They gave us a mandate in November, 77 million people, to deliver President Trump's agenda. And that includes making America healthy again. As far as I'm concerned, Bobby is not part of being the healthcare establishment class. That's a really good thing. We don't need that. Look where it's got us. The pharmaceutical industry and industrial food complex won't be running the show anymore when Bobby Kennedy is confirmed. Instead, he will restore our health agencies to the gold standard of specific research and explore historic healthcare alternatives as part of our efforts to end chronic disease epidemics across this country. Ultimately, this will lower costs for Americans and ease the burden on our entire healthcare system, which is being overrun by all of the conditions that we have popping up today. With the many public health crises we're facing as a country, we have no time to waste. Hope my colleagues will join me in supporting Bobby for HHS Secretary and help President Trump make